a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted, a time to weep and a time to laugh. You know these words. They appear at weddings, on greeting cards, in the Birds' 1965 hit, Turn, Turn, Turn. They feel warm, they feel wise, they feel comforting. But the Bible doesn't stop where the greeting cards do. The very next lines read, "What value then can the man of affairs get from what he earns?" The most comforting passage in the Bible may be a statement of despair. To understand why this passage means something so different from what we expect, we need the book it comes from. Its Hebrew title is Qohelet, meaning preacher or assembler. The Greek translation gives us the name Ecclesiastes. Tradition attributes it to King Solomon, but scholars reject that claim. The text references kings who came before its author, and its Hebrew contains late linguistic features, placing it in the 4th century BCE, centuries after Solomon. This is a post-exilic voice, yet one that never mentions Israel's history, the covenant, or the law. And a telling detail, Qohelet never uses God's personal name, Yahweh, the covenantal name tied to Israel's relationship with the divine. He uses only Elohim, the generic word for God, a distant, impersonal, almost philosophical term. The book opens with a cry, "Utter futility," said Qohelet. "Utter futility, all is futile. What real value is there for a man in all the gains he makes beneath the sun?" That word translated, futility, is the Hebrew hevel, literally breath or vapor, something that appears for an instant and vanishes. Hevel becomes the book's relentless refrain, repeated more than 30 times. And the reason everything is hevel comes from what Qohelet observes in the natural world. The sun rises and sets on the same path, winds blow in circuits, rivers flow to the sea, yet the sea never fills. Patterns repeat endlessly. Nothing accumulates, nothing changes. From these observations, Qohelet draws a devastating conclusion. Only that shall happen which has happened. Only that occur which has occurred. There is nothing new beneath the sun. Time for Qohelet is not a line, it's a loop. Generations come and the generations go and nothing changes. This puts Ecclesiastes in direct conflict with the rest of the Hebrew Bible. The dominant biblical framework treats history as linear. Creation leads to covenant with Abraham, covenant to the Exodus to the kingdoms through exile toward restoration, and messianic hope. History moves, it has direction. Qohelet rejects all of this. His world has no progress, no destination. The sun that rose this morning is the same sun that rose 1,000 years ago, and it will rise the same way 1,000 years from now. This cyclic worldview is the foundation everything else in the book rests upon. Qohelet doesn't just assert that everything is futile, he tests it systematically. First, pleasure. "I deny myself nothing my eyes desired," he writes. The verdict, transient and hollow. Next, wealth. He amassed silver and gold, built estates, acquired servants. The verdict, wealth breeds anxiety, and you leave it all to someone who didn't earn it. Finally, wisdom, the most promising candidate. Qohelet concedes that wisdom surpasses folly, as light is superior to darkness. But in the crushing blow, the same fate awaits them both. The wise man dies just like the fool, and neither is remembered. Every path, pleasure, wealth, wisdom, converges on the same end. Death erases every advantage. The wisdom argument deserves a closer look. Its structure is what makes it devastating. Qohelet concedes wisdom's value, then demolishes the concession. Wisdom is superior to folly as light is superior to darkness, but the same fate awaits them both. A wise man has his eyes in his head, but the wise are not remembered forever. I set my mind to study and to probe, but as wisdom grows, vexation grows. To increase learning is to increase heartache. Concession, then defeat. Every time. This brings us back to the passage from the opening, the one you thought you knew. For everything, there is a season, and a time for every matter under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time for war and a time for peace. Beautiful words. Greeting cards, stop here. Wedding reading, stop here. The bird's song stops here. The text does not. Read past the popular excerpt and the passage continues. What value then can the man of affairs get from what he earns? And then he brings everything to pass precisely at its time. The poem is not celebrating life's rhythms. It catalogues predetermined opposites, birth and death, weeping and laughing, war and peace, to argue that these cycles are fixed. If everything already has its appointed season, set in motion by a distant God, then nothing you do can change anything. Human agency is an illusion. The most beloved passage in Ecclesiastes is not comfort, it is the book's thesis, stated as poetry. Here is the remarkable thing. The compilers of the Hebrew Bible included this book in their canon. They deliberately preserved a text that questions progress, doubts meaning, and strips human effort of value, right alongside voices of covenant, hope, and redemption. The tradition decided this voice mattered. Ecclesiastes sits inside the biblical collection and challenges its most fundamental assumptions. It uses the generic Elohim, never the personal Yahweh. It ignores Israel's history, covenant, and the law. It replaces linear hope with cyclic repetition. It is the loyal opposition within the canon itself. The misreading of a time for everything, the transformation of a lament into a greeting card, tells us something the book itself would predict. We instinctively resist its message, or we take its darkest argument and make it warm. We stop reading exactly where the despair begins. That resistance is perhaps the most Ecclesiastes-like irony of all. We prove Qohelet's point by trying to escape it. The book began with a declaration, and 24 centuries of readers have tried to soften it, explain it away, bend it toward hope. The text does not bend. Utter futility. All is futile.